I will die for these animals. Just listen to that. It's a mantra, an obsession. These are the words of Timothy Treadwell, and they perfectly capture the love, the delusion, and the tragedy at the absolute heart of this incredible story.
So today, we're digging into Werner Herzog's 2005 masterpiece, Grizzly Man. And look, this is so much more than just the story of a guy who got eaten by a bear. It's a deep and honestly, a pretty uncomfortable dive into the human mind, the rules of filmmaking, and what truth even means. Let's get into it.
So here's the plan. First, we'll get to know the man himself, Timothy Treadwell. Then, we're going to see him through the very unique lens of the director, Werner Herzog. We'll tackle the ethical core of the movie, a 6-minute audio recording of his death. From there, we'll unpack Herzog's wild ideas about truth in film, before we finally land on the movie's big statement about the wilderness itself.
All right, so our story has to start with Timothy Treadwell and this 13-year crusade he went on all by himself in the massive wilds of Alaska's Katmai National Park.
So who was this guy? Well, Timothy Treadwell was this former aspiring actor who, after hitting rock bottom with a near-fatal overdose, just completely reinvented himself. He created this whole new persona, the lone warrior, the guardian of the grizzly bears. For 13 summers in a row, he lived right there with them, filming everything, his interactions, his confessions, his rants. He really saw himself as their protector, fighting off threats like poachers, threats that, the Park Service said weren't really a problem there. And this mission, it all came to a horrible end in the fall of 2003, when a bear killed and partially ate both him and his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. When a filmmaker like Werner Herzog gets his hands on those 100 hours of footage, he doesn't just see some nature lover. Oh no. He sees something totally familiar, a type of character that has basically defined his entire career.
And that's what's known as the Herzogian personality. It's this specific archetype, a visionary, an obsessive, often a total madman, who takes on some impossible mission against this overwhelmingly powerful force, which is usually nature itself. If you've seen his film Fitzcarraldo, think of the guy trying to pull a literal steamship over a mountain. That's it. And Treadwell, with his self-appointed mission to protect bears that were already protected, he fit the mold perfectly.
And Herzog draws a direct line. It's fascinating. In the film, he's watching one of Treadwell's unhinged rants against the Park Service, and he says, plain as day, that he's seen that same kind of madness before, on a film set. He's talking about the legendary actor Klaus Kinski, his collaborator who was famous for his on-set meltdowns. For Herzog, Treadwell wasn't just some guy. He was a real-life Kinski, a personality just too big and too wild for the civilized world.
This all boils down to a really ancient idea, hubris. It's that classic Greek concept of fatal pride, right? Of a character who thinks they can challenge the fundamental order of things. Treadwell didn't just live near the bears. He thought he could actually cross that invisible, sacred line between human and animal. He tried to become one of them. And in the end, that's the transgression he paid for.
And that brings us to the absolute ethical core of this film. A terrifying moment that's defined not by what we see or hear, but by what is very purposefully kept from us. It's a question that has haunted filmmakers forever, really. What are the limits? Is it ever okay to film and then broadcast the actual moment of someone's death? This abstract, theoretical question becomes terrifyingly real in Grizzly Man.
Because, and this is just chilling, when the bear attacked, Treadwell's camera was running. The lens cap was on, so there's no picture, but there is sound, 6 full minutes of it. The complete unedited audio of Timothy Treadwell and Amy Huguenard being killed, and the whole film just revolves around this one unseen, unheard artifact.
The existence of this tape put this huge ethical weight on Herzog, and we see it in the film. We watch him listen to it for the first and only time. His reaction is just visceral. He immediately tells Treadwell's friend, Jewel, who has the tape, that she has to destroy it. He absolutely refused to put it in the film, saying it would violate their privacy, their dignity.
So what Herzog does here is a technique you could call sound elision. He makes the very deliberate choice to leave the sound out. And by doing that, he makes its absence just echo through the entire movie. The horror that we imagine in our heads becomes way more powerful than anything we could have actually heard. It's a profound act of artistic and moral restraint. And this decision, it puts Herzog right in the middle of a long, complicated debate in film history. Famous critics have argued for decades that some things, like death, just shouldn't be aestheticized. Herzog, as the filmmaker coming in after the event happened, has this burden of finding the just way to represent something that feels unrepresentable. And his solution is incredible. He makes himself the only audience for the tape. He absorbs the horror so that we don't have to. It's a truly remarkable moral choice.
Okay, so this one powerful choice really opens the door to Werner Herzog's entire philosophy of filmmaking, which basically throws the rulebook for documentaries right out the window. You know, most documentaries try to be a fly on the wall, right? Just objectively record the facts. Herzog calls that a superficial truth. He's after something else entirely, something he calls ecstatic truth. This is a deeper, more poetic truth that you can only get to through invention, through style, sometimes even through staging things. For Herzog, a documentary's job isn't just to show you what happened, but to reveal a much deeper meaning. Now, to really get how Herzog shows us Treadwell, we can borrow a concept from the philosopher Gilles Deleuze. It's called the crystal image. I know, it sounds super academic, but the idea is pretty simple. It's an image where two realities, the actual, what's real, and the virtual, like a memory or a persona, they merge and you just can't tell them apart anymore. Think of someone looking in a mirror. What's real? What's the reflection? They both exist in the same shot.
And this idea of the crystal image, it is perfect for Timothy Treadwell. Is he the actual brave protector of bears that he says he is? Or is he the virtual, a failed actor who's finally found the role of a lifetime, performing for his camera? The film never lets you decide, because he's both, at the exact same time. He's the mighty conqueror and the fragile guy crying over a dead fox. The real and the persona are just crystallized into one man. So all of this, the man, the filmmaker, the philosophy, it all brings us to the movie's biggest and most powerful theme. This brutal collision between how we want to see nature and what nature actually is.
And this right here, this is the central conflict of the whole film. For Timothy Treadwell, the Alaskan wilderness was like a Disney movie, a perfect romantic Eden. He treated these massive predators like they were people in furry costumes, thinking his love could somehow bridge that gap. But for Herzog, nature is the complete opposite. He famously says in the film that he sees the universe as governed by chaos, hostility, and murder. For him, that boundary between man and bear is absolute. You do not cross it.
And look, this is a super common reaction to the movie. You see it online all the time. A lot of people just see Treadwell as arrogant, naive, an idiot who had it coming. There's this strong feeling that he disrespected nature, and for that hubris, he paid the price.
But Herzog's critique is a little deeper. It's more philosophical. He'd argue that while Treadwell actually knew a lot about bear behavior, he survived out there for 13 summers, he was missing the single most important piece of knowledge. He just failed to understand that nature doesn't care about you. It doesn't love you. It doesn't hate you. It is just completely, terrifyingly indifferent.
And this might be the most chilling line in the whole film. Herzog looks at the exact same bears that Treadwell called his best friends, and he sees nothing like that. He doesn't see a kindred spirit. He sees a predator looking at a potential meal with, and this is the killer part, a half-bored interest. Treadwell projected all these human emotions onto them. That was his fatal error. He thought he was in a drama. The bear thought it was at a buffet.
So, we're left with this question. After you peel back all the layers of this story, the flawed man, the brilliant filmmaker, the ethical questions, the clashing worldviews, you have to wonder, what is this film really about? Is it about bears? Is it about Timothy Treadwell? Or is it maybe just a mirror, showing us our own romantic and sometimes really dangerous ideas about the world and our place in it? The answer, just like the wilderness itself, is complicated, untamed, and ultimately, it's up to us to figure out.